talk to you about is menstrual dysfunction, okay? That's the next part of the triad. And that's basically problems with your period, okay? So to give you a really simplistic view of the menstrual cycle, and this is just going to be just dumbed down, okay? The brain basically makes hormones that go to the ovaries, which cause the ovaries to release estrogen, among other things. It also causes the ovaries to release an egg, which is ovulation, okay? And basically the part of the cycle that you see is the period, okay? Or menstruation. And so that's the cycle, and basically at the level of the brain, that's what gets messed up when you don't have enough calories and the body is sensing stress within, okay? And so that's how your menstruation gets messed up in the female athlete triad. And when we talk about these problems with menstruation, we tend to talk about it in two different ways. And one is in terms of amenorrhea. And so what is amenorrhea? It means absence of menses, basically. So absence of your period. Okay, and it can either be primary or secondary. So primary amenorrhea is where you hit the age of 15 years old and you still haven't gotten your period. Okay, so, and they pick the age of 15 because most people will have gotten their period by the age of 15. Some people won't have, but most people will have. Okay, but if you're an athlete and the cycle is broken by the mechanisms we already talked about, you might have a delay in getting your period, or you might have primary amenorrhea. Okay. And so that's something we like to think about. If you reach the age of 15 and you still haven't gotten your period, I want that to kind of make you raise an eyebrow, okay? And then the other kind of amenorrhea, or absence of period, is secondary, and that's where you've already gotten it, and then suddenly it goes away, okay? And it's been gone for, say, 3 months or more, okay? And that also is a red flag for us, okay? Because that might mean you got your period as expected, but then you started your sport, and then you started going into caloric deprivation, and then suddenly you weren't getting your period anymore. So those are the two ways you kind of might be missing your period. And then the other thing we talk about is oligomenorrhea. And what that basically is oligo means too few, okay? So too few menses, or too few periods. And that's basically, you know, the usual cycle is about 28 days between periods. Okay, and what this would be is a 35-day cycle instead of a 28-day cycle, okay? And so that's something, it's a little bit longer than we would expect, and so that's also part of this menstrual dysfunction that we're talking about, okay? And so these are the things you're looking for, is the amenorrhea and the oligomenorrhea, okay? And if that's you, you know, like, just tuck that away in your mind right now, that that's not a good thing, okay? And we do want you to see somebody. Go see your healthcare provider, talk to your coach, talk to your parents, talk to anybody you trust if you're experiencing these things. Because, well, it might be something to celebrate in your mind. You might be thinking, well, gosh, like, I have a race this weekend and I have to wear basically a bathing suit in it. You know, if I don't get my period, that'll be like a really good thing. You know, I remember kind of thinking about it that way, and I kind of would tempt you not to think about it that way. I would hope that with this knowledge that I'm giving you today, that you would look at that as something to be worried about, okay, or something to at least bring to the attention of somebody else, okay? And the reason we worry about it and don't like get excited about it is because of the downstream effects of not having your period or having menstrual dysfunction, okay? And so one of the things that I mentioned, the ovaries usually would make estrogen. One of the things estrogen does is it allows your arteries that take blood through your body. When you're out there exercising, it allows your arteries to get bigger so that you can basically send more blood to that working muscle. Okay, so it kind of makes you a more efficient athlete to have estrogen on board, okay, making those arteries bigger for you. And you don't have, when you take away the estrogen, you don't have that anymore. And so that can make you a less efficient athlete. Okay, so that's one reason you might be concerned. Another reason is because when estrogen's around, it protects bone. So it basically keeps bone from being broken down in your body. And you guys are out there pounding the pavement, putting a lot of stress on your bones, you know, and estrogen is there protecting them. And so when you take the estrogen away, it's thought that you no longer have that protection for your bones and that they're more susceptible to things like fracture. Okay, so that's another problem with not having this cycle intact. Further down the road than you guys are probably thinking, you might want to return to fertility. So you guys are all going to graduate from high school and go on and continue working out and continue being fit and continue being athletic, you know, and eventually you might want to start a family. And the return to fertility when you're not having regular menstrual cycles can sometimes be longer than you would predict. Or conversely, you might think you are protected from pregnancy because you're not having your periods, but it is possible to have an ovulation without a period, and so you might have an unintentional pregnancy down the road as well, depending on your situation, okay? So those fertility concerns are always on our mind when it comes to this subject. And there are, I don't want to scare anybody, there are many, many, many reasons why a person might be missing a period or having kind of deranged menstrual cycles, besides for just being a female athlete, okay? So I don't want you to hit the panic button, but what I do want this to be is a red flag for you. I want any changes in your period to become a red flag that alerts you that something more serious might be going on, okay?